Now, do you guys want? Yes, sir.
I think the Patriot Act was more deal with domestic communications, and this is for national defense purposes. Foreign power.
Well, if you read parts of the Patriot Act and you listen to the arguments, I have a bad habit of recording the video archives, and I actually go back and I take a look at the arguments for certain things. Their argument was, we must be able to access electronic communications without a court order.
That was the stovepiping argument. The national defense agencies already had those powers via here, but it was the domestic agencies, the FBI, and so on and so forth, that are charged with maintaining domestic order that did not have that power yet. They want that ability.
That's because the courts restricted it.
Right.
Okay? And so they added that. Now, one thing I must say with regards to this is that the Patriot Act allowed all these agencies to pursue people doing things overseas from the U.S. So if one of you guys want to go and break into something in Venezuela, well, the Patriot Act now gives them teeth. But again, a lot of I'm just pointing out the law. What the court rulings are will determine its application. And then they produce more law. Now, the Patriot Act basically went through these other sections and a few others. 202 is about computer fraud, clarified, added more punishment, lowered the threshold. 204 was about exemptions, which is certain communications were exempted from surveillance law and other things. 202 was about life protection disclosure. If you don't disclose something and someone's life is at stake and then you disclose it, you could be sued. So basically, if the government says, you got to reveal to me this guy's emails because his life's in danger or his brother's life is in danger, life protection is a reason for somebody to release your private information without liability. Delayed warrants. This is the part that's being debated now, is that they don't have to serve you a warrant to have one. They can give it to you later after they got what they wanted. Okay? Section 216 adds pen trap orders for tracing internet and network communications countrywide. So they can actually record everything that's going on remotely. Wherever you go, wherever you access.
What's pen trap mean?
Pen trap, a pen/trap. You've lived in an apartment complex, or you know people who have. There is a communication box with all the wires that lead then to all the apartments. They don't have to go into your apartment to tap your phone. They just have to go to that box or a junction box further down the line and put a trap there, surveillance at that point. So they can record your communications at any point between your phone or internet connection, cable, all the way through.
Well, historically, I would argue a pen trap was just the addressing data. For example, the phone, that would be just the phone numbers, and that's not communications per se, so there's less of a legal barrier to get that kind of a...
Correct.
So applied to the internet would probably be like header information and stuff.
Subject lines.
It's communication, so there's less of a boundary, I think.
No, but they can trace your habits, your where you go, basically who you call.
But it doesn't offer the same protections of communication. It's easier for them to get to.
Correct. Listen, if you're sending encrypted something or another, they're not stealing that what they're doing is they're figuring out who you sent it to and at what location and where you sent it from. And that gives them breadcrumbs to pursue other avenues. Okay, some recent group prosecutions. 19 individuals were indicted in an internet carding conspiracy, the Shadow Crew organization, which was called One Stop Online Marketplace for Identity Theft. Now, why is that important? Identity theft. Imagine you have a false passport, or you have a false driver's license and credit card. Now you can use someone else's identity to do certain things, make certain transactions, and it's not you. Okay? I was at a presentation about a month ago where Secret Service, they presented the Russian net has access to these identity theft rings. They ordered passports. They ordered a whole host of identity items, and they were really, really high quality. Keep that in mind. We're getting scary now. Ramzi Youssef had another alternative identity. That's why he was able to get out of the country after the first trade tower explosion. Oops. Nope, going too fast. Go back. There we go. 6 internet fraudsters indicted in a conspiracy to steal more than $10 million from a technology distributor. A Louisiana man was prosecuted for reprogramming web TV to dial 911. Okay, so every time your web TV would just periodically call 911. Emergency squads would show up. Kazakhstan, or as Team America says, Durkistan, sentenced, a hacker was sentenced to 4 years prison for breaking into the Bloomberg systems. That's our stock trading system. Okay? Imagine that you could get a hold of that data or modify it, how you could impact our entire economy in a day. And there's others. Now, I want to point out there has not been one successful cyber terrorist conviction. There's been prosecution, but through appeals and all this other stuff, hasn't happened. So when I hear Richard Clarke say, cyber terrorism, we must have new laws. We have a lot of laws. Okay? Use them. All right, my final thoughts. Cyber terrorism's emerging. It's not here yet. It's coming. It has a socio-political element. It's primarily a communication, coordination, and activity dissemination function right now. Electronic attacks will most likely be used for intelligence gathering or as a force multiplier. The flight over Pennsylvania was able to be averted because we had cell phones. We now have viruses affecting cell phones. So what would happen if we disabled a cellular network before an attack? How about all the rescue squads? If they couldn't communicate with the hospitals, how many more people would have died who were injured? Because you didn't know who they were, where they were, or how to treat them. Existing laws give ample authority to arrest and prosecute someone for doing almost anything they shouldn't be with a computer. Like I said at the beginning, if you're not part of the dialogue, even if you're wrong, you're going to learn something. Participate. Write these guys. That's why we pay them. That's why we send them to Washington. Any questions? Well, okay, we'll start with you.
I think it's criminal in the definition, and it was in a lot of definitions. It's problematic because there could be some actions that are outside the definition of criminal, and then jurisdiction. You've got these countries like Afghanistan, which they're in transition. They're not they're not part of the international treaties yet. Like, is it a criminal act?
Now, you're bringing into the issue of globalized enforcement. Because what happens in America, or U.S., or one of our treated countries may not be the source of the attack. In the Philippines, you remember the I Love You virus? Well, that kid, we didn't have a treaty. They arrested him. They didn't have any laws there. He didn't go to jail. He wasn't extradited. So the law is slow to catch up. And just creating law isn't going to work. You have to have purpose, not one big net and now we can have the government police it. The government has to work with people.
But
yes?
what good do most of these laws do against international terrorists? You can't go after people in Russia.
That's correct. So yeah, power to the man. Now, look.
The Russian government's even more corrupt than the U.S. government.
And that's bullshit. We should be number one.
All right, I admit that America is number one in certain areas. All right? And we strive to be number one in certain areas.
McDonald's. That's bullshit.
But you're bringing up the absolute point is we're going to restrict our ability to self-test our own networks, eliminate our latitude to maybe contribute.
Well, these laws are nice, but they don't do shit to help take care of the rest of the world's problems. And nobody cares, because we're the target.
Here's the thing, though. 24% of Internet subscribers reside in the U.S.
Yeah, but 100% of the attacks I've ever seen on my company have come from outside the U.S.
Yes.
We barred Asia from even communicating with our network.
A black hole, like we black hole like 50 Class A's. We blocked off all of Asia.
That's right. And but now you see they're actually moving an agenda forward by doing that. They're polarizing. Here's the thing to think about as system administrators and so forth. The internet allows us to share our culture, our ideals, our approaches, our systems. That brings the world closer together. It creates a small faction who will polarize us and not like it, but it creates more harmonious environment. The more these guys get to do what they're succeeding at, which is blocking that access, the less we can change what's going on out there. You can't police the world. You can't chase after these guys in China and Vietnam and so forth. Very, very difficult, even with the treaties. How do you find them? Who did what? So this is, like I said, this whole notion of cyber terrorism, much less cyber crime, is going to be with us for a while. Now's the time to define what the initiatives are. Are we out of time yet? Okay, I'm dead. Thanks, everybody.